Hi, welcome back to Bookkeeping with Tina. This is lesson 2 in our series, Your Company in QuickBooks. Tonight we're going to continue with our getting your bills paid in QuickBooks, the varied modes and how those varied modes affect you and how they will affect your reports. Right now we're going to click on over to the left-hand sidebar. If that's not open, you'll see a little arrow up here. Just click that arrow. Click on the Home tab. Let's go down to the check register. The only checking account we have right now is a Wells Fargo operating account. If you are not going to be printing checks, if you have hand checks that you write all the time, they're very simple. You're not going to job cost them. This is probably the easiest place to data enter them. You would put the date. You would put the check number. You could go in and let's say Walmart. You're going to tab over. You're probably not going to have Walmart set up yet, so hit tab, go ahead and set it up. Just do a fast setup because we're not going to 1099 Walmart. Let's make it for $50. Let's put it to office expense in a memo. Let's put coffee and supplies. Now, of course, you're going to tab over and enter that. Of course, you're going to take that receipt from Walmart. You're going to scan that receipt. Make a note on it. Circle the coffee and supplies you bought for the office. Scan that receipt. Make sure that you scan your receipts. Your receipts do not last very long, so scan them. IRS will accept original scan receipts. Don't copy it and then scan it. Scan the actual receipt. All right, so going back to this, if we do our next check, let's make this one to ABC Company. You are not going to have ABC Company. Tab over and choose Setup. And I'm going to go ahead and open my vendors where I already have it set up. You're going to enter a phone number for them. A main phone number. Always enter an email address, a carbon copy email address if there's somebody else in the company that also needs to receive your emails. A work phone, mobile phone, fax number, a contact name, put them here. Make sure you always have an address for them. I just used a very simple address. The shipping area, if we were going to ship to them, which we're not going to, we could copy this address over, or we could hit this little edit button, and we could set up the shipping address. Let's click down to the payment setting. I have them set at net 30. I made sure that ABC Company is the name that's going to print on the checks. For the tax settings, let's go ahead and give them a 1099. You know what? They're not going to be 1099 because we're going to buy supplies from them. Account settings, put them to materials cost. Additional info, you can just make them suppliers, and this is not important. This is just for your information. Then click OK. Close out the vendor center. Let's go ahead and make this check for $500. Now notice, it's strictly going to materials cost. When you have something going to materials cost, if you decide that you want to do that you actually want to keep a record of what your jobs are costing you, it's very difficult to do it here from the check register. If you click down here and hit splits, you can bring it up. Then you can put your memo here. By the way, if you want your memo to show in your general ledger and stuff in situations like this, it needs to be in here. You could go ahead and charge this to a company. Let's go ahead and make this one John Doe Company. And let's make it billable. And let's tell it record. Now, if you double click on that again, the ABC Company, or right click it and choose Edit Check, it actually will come up as a check. And this step down here is where you got from when you use a split. Let's close that out. If your company is not going to be this simple, and most of the companies are not going to be this simple, but a few of them will be, instead of entering it through your check register, you're going to close that out. You're going to go up to banking or write checks. Notice when you write checks, you have an expense tab down here and you have an items tab down here. If you want to keep record of particular items. Like if you buy, maybe you keep certain fertilizers in inventory, and you want to write those fertilizers off to a particular customer, or even bill them. You can write them off to a customer, and those will show up in your job costing reports. Maybe you've given them a flat rate per month for their lawn care, and maybe that includes fertilizing the lawn. If that's the case, you would not want to check billable. But if you have an arrangement with them where you charge them for the supplies and the labor, then you would want to. Let's go ahead here now. Let's go ahead and choose Home Depot. And you're normally not going to buy from Home Depot. You're going to buy from a wholesale place. We're going to leave the amount blank right now. Instead of using the expense tab, we're going to use the item tab. Let's buy, you know what? Let's go back up. Let's make this a different vendor. Let's put ABC Company. Click over. Make sure that you're on the items tab here. Let's put fertilizer. A. Hit tab. It's going to tell you that you do not have that item. Click yes to set it up. We are going to make this a non-inventory part. Or we could actually make it an inventory. We can make it an inventory assembly or an inventory part. We're going to make it a non-inventory part. Inventory are things that you are actually buying to resell. If it's stuff that you're going to consume in a job that you're not, I mean, it's not part of your normal sales, but even though you need it for each project, it's not an inventory. It's actually a supplies. It's a non-inventory item. You do want to keep track of it, but you don't buy so much of it that you're holding it for forever. You're just kind of buying it and using it. We're going to make this one a non-inventory part. Another little hint that I want to bring up: whenever you're doing a lot of inventory or non-inventory items, if you're gonna mostly buy fertilizer A from ABC Company, to keep things kind of nice and neat in your list, so when you glance at your list, you can say, oh, if you end up with 20 different fertilizers, it may be an act of Congress to go in and remember where you bought fertilizer A from. What I would do is put ABC and the little space and fertilizer A. That way, you're always going to know this is where you bought this product from the ABC Company. In the interest of keeping our item list neat again, we're going to make a sub item, and we're going to call this non-inventory master. We're going to hit tab. It's going to tell us that is not set up. We're going to make it a non-inventory part as a type. Let's just call it a bag. A unit of measure is going to be bag. You're probably not going to have that right now, so choose it. Go ahead and let it set it up. We're going to make this a sub item of not. No, we're not. This is our. Okay. Make this the master. Go ahead and make it a bag. Leave the price blank. Go ahead and come down and let's choose product sales. You're not going to have product sales. Go ahead and tab over and set it up. Make sure it is a type income account and tell it OK. Now we're going to make our fertilizer A a sub item of this non-inventory master. Let's give it a part number so when we want to reorder it next time, we can just go right to this and we can say, oh, okay, that's in their catalog and they still have it. This is the number. And let's just give it an F111A. Let's just say that's what their manufacturer part number is. For units of measure, let's give it a bag. This item is used in assemblies or purchased for a specific customer or job. You can click that. We want to go ahead and change this from cost of goods sold. Let's make it materials cost, which is also a cost of goods sold item. Down here, since we're giving it the ABC, let's just go ahead and say it's ABC vendor or ABC company. We're going to leave the cost blank, and for now, we're going to leave the sales price blank. We're going to give it an income account of, let's see, product sales, and tell it OK. So let's say we're buying, we can put a little description in there, fertilizer A. Let's just say we're going to buy 5 bags and we're buying it for a specific customer. So let's tab over. Let's give it a cost of $5 a bag. It's going to pop up and say you've changed the cost for this. Do you want to update the item with the new cost? Just tell it yes. Unless for some reason you don't. There's going to be times when you want to keep cost at 0, but you can update it each time if you want to. That automatically gives us a total cost of $25. Let's move over to the customer and jobs. Let's put this one to John Doe Company. And let's make it billable also. Let's save and close. Let's go back into banking. You know what? Let's go over here to list. Open our items list. Notice we have our service items, our service item master with all the varied service items underneath it. We have a non-inventory master now with our fertilizer A underneath it. We have our other charges master with the shipping and handling. Then we have all of our sales tax items and our sales tax groups down here. See, that's starting to look pretty neat. We're getting a few items on there, and believe me, as your company grows, these items lists will get longer and longer, and you're going to thank me for helping you keep this really neat. And see how this says ABC Fertilizer A? When you have 200 maybe non-inventory items, and you're looking back at Fertilizer A, it's going to be really helpful for you to have ABC next to it. Because then you're going to think immediately, oh, ABC Company. So let's close that out. Let's go back up to reports. Let's go down to jobs, time, and mileage. Let's go down here. Let's run a different report this time. Let's run our unbilled cost by job. Let's click on that. Let's give it a date of 01/01/14 to 12/31/14 because we want to make sure we see everything. See, there's our sod for ABC Company and our fertilizer A for ABC Company. Both of these are unbilled. Let's leave that open for right now, and let's go up, and both of them are being billed to John Doe Company. So let's just go up and take care of that. We're looking at this report and we're saying, oh, we haven't billed for that yet. So let's go up to our customers. Let's go down and create invoices. Let's pull up our John Doe Company. Now this pops up, billable time and cost. It says the customer or job you've selected has outstanding billable times and or cost. Do you want to select the outstanding billable time and cost to add to this invoice, or exclude outstanding billable time and cost at this time? You may add these later by clicking the Add Time Cost button at the top of this invoice. So let's tell it to go ahead and select the billable cost and tell it OK. Then you get this little pop-up box. Here would be your payroll. We have no time. Or it would be your owner time, different times. Over under our expenses tab, we have our ABC Company for that sod. This is what it cost us. Notice we have a markup here. We have a 0% on this markup. We left that there at 0% and less than 1. So what we need to do now is decide. We paid $500 for this sod. What do we want to do? Do we want to mark this up for them? Do we have an agreement? Do we want to mark it up 100%? You always need to use that percentage sign on the invoice, which 100% is going to make it from $500 down to $1,000. Or do we want to mark it up 20%? And your markup is all going to depend on what type of business you have. If most of your income comes from service, then it may be that you want to keep your markup low. Maybe you've agreed to just buy stuff and pass it off at your cost, or maybe you've agreed to buy it and pass it off at a certain markup to cover your fuel and your time. So right now, let's go ahead and leave it at a 20% markup. We're going to have a markup income. Let's see if we set that up the other day. No, we did not. So we have to have an income for this markup. Now what we could do is put this to product sales also, because after all, it is a product. So instead of making a markup income, Let's just put it to product sales. That will be our default markup income. So this is going to go from our cost of $500 to $600 on our invoice. We're going to click over to mileage. We have no mileage to charge them. Click over to items. And we actually do. We have 5 bags of fertilizer. That's our cost. Now notice when we had our items, if you'll leave that right there and you'll click over, let's cancel that right now. See, and that's what happens. If you don't have cost, if you don't have prices, and you don't have a markup, it thinks that this markup is it's just zero, is what it thinks. Over here, it's going to let you mark items up. Under your items, it's not going to let you mark items up. For right now, let's tell that cancel. Unless maybe that's all we want to charge that client. Maybe we want to charge them our exact cost for this fertilizer, but we want to up the expense on the sod. Now, why QuickBooks doesn't let us choose a default markup cost here, but it will actually on the invoice. So let's tell it okay for right now. Let's draw this invoice up here. Let's look at the type of invoice. We are on a service invoice. Invoice 1001. If we had a PO number, we would put it here. They have a net 15% with us. Now look at our inventory here, or look at our invoice here. We have our non-inventory fertilizer A. It's a bag. We have 5 bags. What we can do here, since we don't have the markup set up completely, we have our markup at 0. It's going to want to charge this just our cost because we don't have a markup. We could turn around and we can mark this up 100%. We can make that $10 a bag. And it's going to pop up. Did you know that QuickBooks can help you set custom pricing? So we could actually have custom pricing for our customers and our jobs. But we're not going to do that just yet. And tell it okay. If we mark that up to $10, because we know right here that it cost us 5, it's going to make that $50 and it's going to be taxable. That's going to be the end of our reimbursement group right there. It's going to reimbursement income. Then we're going to have our sod at $500, reimbursement expense at $500, and then this is our 20% markup. If you'll notice, this markup is just on this expense item. Then we have total reimbursable expenses, $600. So our invoice is going to be $653.50, which is a $50 on our fertilizer, which our cost was $25. It's the sod. It's the sod's markup, and we can tell that save and close. Now let's go back and look at our markup here. Just close that out. Let's go all the way back to edit, preferences. Let's scroll down to, I believe it's in payments. Let me see down here. All the way down to time and expense. There we go. All the way down to time and expense on the left hand side of preferences. You see down here we have our default markup. We have a 0%. Suppose you're just going to have a small markup, and you got to remember, as you saw, it will let us change the expenses. The items, though, if we don't have a markup here, it's not going to mark them up on the invoice. We're going to have to wait and bring the invoice up and then change it as we did the $5. We changed it from the cost of $5 a bag to a $10 bag sale fee. Here, let's go ahead and make this a 50% markup. Now, we can't just hit 50. It has to have that little percent sign after it. It's defaulting these to product sales, which is fine. And tell it okay. Now, if we go in again, let's go back into banking, write checks. And if we write another check to ABC Company, and we come down here for items. Let's buy some more of this fertilizer A. Let's say we're going to buy another 10 bags. The cost is $5 a piece. Let's let's give it the John Doe Company again, and let's make it billable. Let's save and close that. Now let's get back into our customer, create invoice. Let's bring up John Doe Company. Let's see what that does for us. Click at yes that we do want to add these. We have no expenses this time, no mileage. On our items, we have this non-inventory, and it's not marking it up. Let's hit clear on that one. Let's go back up to our items, our list, item list. Let's scroll down here to our fertilizer A. QuickBooks have so many varied features. Sometimes you have to tweak some of these things just a little bit. Let's double click on this to edit it. I bet you if we clear this, make this 0, and let's come back over here and make it $5. See, now it's going to mark this up, our markup amount. So let's tell it okay. Let's close our item list. Let's get back into our check, our invoice. Let's see if it's going to mark it up for us now. Now that we've cleared that, let's pick out the John Doe Company again. Tell it yes that we do want to add those expenses. Let's go over here and pick up the item and see. It went from the rate of $5. Now it includes the markup, so it's $7.50. And so tell it okay. So that's $75. Save and close. Alright, let's look at our reports again. Report. Let's go down to our jobs, time, and mileage. Let's just click over here and verify that we have no unbilled cost. So let's hit unbilled cost by job. Let's just stick the dates in here of 01/01/14 to 12/31/14 just to make sure. Nope, everything's done. We can click out of that. Let's go back to reports. Let's go to jobs, time, and mileage. Let's hit our job profitability summary again. Now we have a little bit more. If we click on the John Doe Company under our cost, $575, let's double click on that. See, we have our sod, which was $500. We have our fertilizer A, which was a non-inventory item, which was $5, or 5 bags at $5 a piece, $25. We charged it to them there. And then we have a materials where we billed the ABC Company, and this time we upped it to 10 bags at $5. Save and close. Let's close that and let's look over here at our revenue now is $725. Our gross profit is $150. Let's click on our invoice. Notice it brings up our product sales, our materials cost. This is the markup of the materials, and this is the $75 is a new item that we added after we set our markup to 15%, or was it 20%? It does include sales tax. We can just tell it save and close. Now let's get in and let's get in here and let's receive some payments. We're going to go to customers, receive payments. Let's pick on John Doe Company, and let's just say I want to show y'all how to use the undeposited funds now. Suppose this were 2 companies and not one, or suppose we got 1 check in the mail for them today and we didn't take it to the bank, and then we got 1 check tomorrow. So let's say that today we get a check for $653.50. We'll type that in. We'll give it the date of the second. Let's say they paid us by check. It was check number 1564. It automatically picks up this one that we had 653. So we're not going to take this to the bank today. Say we're going to hold this. And you can do the same thing if you have several checks from several vendors in one day. But today we're just going to say, okay, we're not going to take it to the bank today. So let's move this from the bank. Let's move it to our undeposited funds until it's saving new, because we're going to do another one. Let's make another cash receipt from John Doe Company. Let's type this in as 80.25. And let's say this one's 10/3 that we got it in. They paid by check, and we'll give it another check number. They paid us $80.25, and we're going to deposit it to undeposited funds. So now let's save and close. Let's open our check register again. Oops, our deposits are not there, are they? Our deposits are not there in order, because whenever you use undeposited funds, and let's go into banking, make deposits. You must always do this when you've used your undeposited funds. So let's say I have these two checks in the office now, and I'm gonna write a deposit slip. I'm gonna take both checks and put them on this deposit slip. If I had put this one in the bank and then this one in the bank, then when I got my bank rec at the end of the month, I would have had to gone through with my calculator and tried to figure out the total, what 733.75 was. And if you have 50 or 100 or pages of deposits, and somebody has to go through and figure that out every month because you put the individuals directly into the bank, it'll make reconciling your checking account very difficult. So what we do, we write our deposit slip. Our deposit slip says 733.75. So then we go into banking, make deposit, and we check these off. And these two should total this deposit slip. We tell it okay, and then it's going to pop up with this. If we want to put a memo here, we can. If we're gonna, if one, suppose you had a cash sale along with this, or as part of that was cash, and you want it cash back, you could actually take a little cash back here if you wanted to, and book it to owner's draw. And you can make a little memo here, or you can book it to office expense. If you had a receipt and maybe somebody paid you cash and you ran out and got something, that's not the ideal thing to do, to take cash back like that, but you can book it to your draw if you're taking cash back. And then you just tell it to save and close. Now when we actually look at our checking account, see we have this deposit on 10/3 for 733.75. Okay, I think that's it for today. I'll see y'all next time.